So what if the absolute key to your dog's long-term training success isn't, about teaching them more commands?
Right, which is what everyone thinks it is.
Exactly. But what if it's actually about changing the music they listen to and being brutally honest with them right before you do something completely terrifying?
It sounds totally counterintuitive.
It really does. But welcome to today's deep dive, everyone. We are tearing into the rather murky world of canine behavior today.
And it is murky. There's a lot of noise out there.
So much noise. So our mission today is to uncover how we can use actual empirical research to understand what is really going on inside a dog's head.
Yeah, and more importantly, how you can use that knowledge to build a foundation of just absolute trust with your dog.
Totally. So today's deep dive pulls from this really wild mix of material. We're cross-referencing a 2026 curated database of top research-based dog training podcasts.
Which is a goldmine.
Oh, it really is. And we're pairing that with the latest biological studies on auditory enrichment in shelter dogs.
Right, getting into the actual biology of it all.
Yeah. And then to tie all this hard science together, we've got this hilarious, just highly revealing transcript from a show called Podcastic.
I love this part.
It's so good. It literally translates a dog's inner monologue during that universally dreaded task, getting their nails clipped.
It's a fantastic stack of sources, really, because it forces us to look past all those surface-level obedience commands.
Right. Sit, stay, whatever.
Exactly. We're bridging the gap here between high-level behavioral science and the very real, sometimes chaotic, emotional negotiations you are having in your living room with your dog.
Yeah, those daily struggles. So let's actually start with where we get our information. Because, if you search for animal behavior advice online right now,
it's a nightmare.
It's a total nightmare. You just get hit with this tidal wave of conflicting, often completely unscientific opinions.
Yeah, everybody's an expert suddenly.
Right. But our 2026 database zeroes in on finding the best guides, shows that actually prioritize empirical animal behavior study.
And more than just the study, they translate those complex scientific concepts into actionable advice.
Exactly. So what's the real distinction there?
Well, the distinction between a hobbyist's opinion and a research-based methodology is really the core filter here.
Right.
When you're looking for a guide, the sources emphasize looking for hosts holding legitimate credentials. We are talking about a CDBC, which is a Certified Dog Behavior Consultant.
Oh, okay.
Or a CPDT-KA, meaning a Certified Professional Dog Trainer Knowledge Assessed.
So real, actual credentials.
Exactly. These credentials indicate that the practitioner isn't just relying on, anecdotal experience like, I grew up with dogs.
Right, the classic, I've owned dogs my whole life thing.
Right. These certified folks actually understand the underlying mechanics of operant conditioning, and they rely on empirical data to drive their methods.
Choosing a guide for your dog's behavior is basically like choosing a physical therapist for yourself.
That's a great way to look at it.
You want someone with actual credentials who understands the anatomy of the problem.
Right.
Not just someone with a loud voice and a catchy slogan who tells you to just walk it off.
Yeah, walk it off doesn't work for dogs either.
Exactly. So you look at a show like the Research Bedzz Podcast, which is hosted by Dr. Christina Spalding.
She's fantastic.
She really is. She's a certified applied animal behaviorist, or CAB, and her explicit mission is taking dense academic data and translating the science of applied animal behavior for non-scientists.
Right, because she actually interviews the researchers directly.
Yeah.
And that translation is just vital, because academic literature on animal behavior can be incredibly dense.
It's totally unreadable for the average person.
Right. But when someone like Dr. Spalding breaks it down, it gives you a practical framework. And we see this holistic approach echoed in another top-rated show from the database, Help My Dog, the podcast.
Oh, yeah. Hosted by Dr. Tom Mitchell.
Yes. And he brings a really unique perspective because he is both a veterinarian and a behaviorist.
Which fundamentally changes the diagnostic process, right? It's not just a holistic buzzword with him.
Not at all.
If a dog suddenly starts aggressively guarding its bed, a standard, maybe uncredentialed trainer might just try to correct or suppress that behavior.
Right. They'd just punish the growling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Dr. Mitchell's approach explores how underlying joint pain might actually be causing that dog to feel physically vulnerable.
Yes, which forces the dog to use aggression as a protective barrier.
Right. You fix the physical pain, and the behavioral issue just vanishes entirely.
It's about addressing the root cause rather than just policing the symptom.
Spot on.
And we see a very similar philosophy highlighted in Dog Speak, which is hosted by canine behavior specialist Nikki Ivey.
She's great.
Her show is specifically recognized in the database because it focuses intensely on understanding why a behavior occurs.
Right.
She moves the listener away from acting as, like, a dictator trying to force a dog into submission.
Which is so common, unfortunately.
Yeah, it is. Instead, she focuses on analyzing the environment and the dog's emotional state.
So these top-tier shows aren't just teaching abstract theory. They're giving you the tools to actually manage the environment.
Yes.
Because if you only learn the academic theory, you might understand why your dog is barking at the mailman on a neurological level.
But you have absolutely no idea what to do with the leash in your hand when it actually happens.
Exactly.
Precisely. Knowledge is only functional when it's applied. These credentialed guides help you bridge that gap between understanding the dog's brain and manipulating the environment to set the dog up for success.
Okay, so if these top-tier behaviorists are telling us to manage a dog's environment rather than just commanding them, like, what does that actually look like in practice?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right. Let's strip away the human element entirely for a second and just look at their baseline biology. Specifically, what happens to their nervous system when we just change the ambient noise in their room?
Okay, yeah, let's get into the 2012 study.
Yeah, the one published in the Journal of Veterinary Behavior by Kogan and colleagues. They looked at kennel dogs and tracked how different auditory environments physically altered their stress levels.
It's fascinating research. They exposed these sheltered dogs to a rotation of classical music, heavy metal music, and then just a control period of complete silence.
The behavioral responses were incredibly stark,
No,
right?
very much so. Classical music specifically tracks featuring around 100 to 140 beats per minute, so we're talking compositions by Beethoven or Strauss, that significantly increased the amount of time the dogs spent sleeping, and it drastically decreased their vocalizations.
Oh, wait, I'm looking at this data on the heavy metal test, though, and it's wild.
Oh, it's intense.
Yeah. When exposed to bands like Motorhead or Slayer, these dogs weren't just barking more and sleeping less. There was a massive increase in severe body shaking.
Yeah.
It sounds less like a quirky behavioral issue and more like their nervous systems were just trying to physically discharge the chaotic high DPMs of the music.
Well, that is exactly what is happening biologically.
Really?
Yeah, dogs have highly sensitive acoustic perception. When they are bombarded with erratic, high-frequency, high BPM noise, it triggers an acute stress response.
Wow.
The physical shaking is a biological mechanism to release that intense nervous energy flooding their system.
That makes total sense, which actually brings us to the 2024 Pet Pace Biometric Study, which basically takes this concept and goes entirely high-tech.
I love this one.
So they put smart collars on golden retrievers and Labradors to monitor their internal biometrics, specifically looking at heart rate and heart rate variability, or HRV.
Right.
And we know that a spike in HRV means the parasympathetic nervous system is kicking in. So we are basically looking for things that hit that biological rest and digest switch.
And those smart collars provided the internal data to really prove the concept.
Yeah.
They tested specially tailored pet acoustics music. These are frequencies engineered by scientists specifically for a dog's hearing range against standard classical music.
Okay, so engineered versus Beethoven.
Exactly. And the biometrics reveal that the engineered pet acoustics actively outperformed classical music. It drove the dog's pulse rates down and pushed their HRV up significantly.
That's incredible.
It is. The acoustic frequencies were biologically forcing the dog's bodies into a state of deep relaxation and recovery.
But here is where the research takes a massive, just fascinating turn.
The audiobook study.
Yes. So we have the 2012 study proving classical music calms them down. We have the 2024 biometric study proving engineered frequencies are even better. And then we introduced the Maddie's Fun study, which brought in audiobooks.
This is where it gets really interesting.
Right. They played an audiobook of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, read by the actor Michael York, for a group of kennel dogs. And it outperformed all the music.
Everything.
It beat the classical tracks, and it beat the specifically engineered psychoacoustic music.
The data on this is just phenomenal. The audiobook led to the greatest overall increase in resting behavior and the most significant reduction in pacing, sitting, standing, and barking across the board.
Okay, I have to write this down because it's almost unbelievable.
I know, it sounds crazy.
A fictional audiobook about a magical wardrobe is scientifically more effective at regulating a dog's nervous system than music engineered in a lab specifically for their ears.
That's what the data says.
I mean, it obviously isn't the plot of Narnia keeping them calm. It has to be the predictable cadence of the narration acting as some kind of acoustic anchor, right?
It entirely comes down to the evolutionary bond between dogs and humans.
Okay.
Dogs are intensely social animals. Music, even when it's engineered for their ears, is still fundamentally abstract to a dog's brain.
That makes sense.
But a human voice is a primary evolutionary signal. The researchers concluded that the steady, continuous rhythm of a calm human voice provides what they termed the illusion of company and comfort.
The illusion of company.
Yeah.
That is wild. The even cadence of Michael York's narration literally mimicked the presence of a calm human sitting in the room, which neurologically regulated the dogs better than any musical frequency ever could. The steady, predictable presence of a human voice tells their brain they are safe.
And that biological reality leads us directly into our next source.
Right.
If a predictable human voice is the ultimate signal of safety, we have to examine what happens when that human presence becomes unpredictable.
Which takes us to the podcastic transcript.
Oh, this is so good.
This is a brilliant, just highly creative piece that decodes a dog's inner monologue during the ultimate canine stress test, getting their nails clipped.
The worst.
It perfectly illustrates how quickly trust breaks down when we abandon consistency.
Oh.
In the transcript, the dog is actively comparing a vacuum cleaner to the nail clippers.
Right.
The dog notes that the vacuum cleaner is terrifying, but it's, quote, honest.
Yeah.
It's loud, it announces its presence, you know exactly what it is. But the nail clippers are vastly more insidious because they, quote, pretend to be harmless.
The way the dog analyzes the sequence of events is incredibly telling about how they actually process our actions.
Ugh.
From the dog's perspective, the betrayal starts the moment the drawer opens. The human approaches, offering all these soft, overly sweet, false reassurances.
Right, like just one claw, the human whispers.
Yeah.
And the dog points out that the human's soft face and gentle eye contact makes them careless. Then the human grabs the dog's paw to stabilize it.
And the phrasing here is so good.
It is. The dog describes being held like an imposed legal document.
It's devastatingly accurate.
It really is. The human thinks they are just safely stabilizing a limb to prevent a bad cut, but the dog feels like their physical autonomy has just been completely stripped away without any permission or warning.
It highlights a massive disconnect in how intent is communicated.
Yeah.
From the human's perspective, they are in total control of a routine hygiene task. They hold the paw, they line up the tool, and they make the cut.
Simple.
But from the dog's perspective, this soft, sweet approach, culminating in physical restraint, is a chaotic surprise attack.
Which completely explains the scream.
Well, absolutely.
In the transcript, the dog openly admits to screaming before the clipper even makes contact with the nail. The human immediately assumes the dog is in physical pain or that they hit the quick.
Right, they panic.
But the dog explains they are screaming preemptively to establish tone and urgency.
We're looking at a masterclass in canine emotional communication here.
Truly.
That preemptive scream isn't a pain response at all. It is a desperate boundary setting.
Wow.
The dog is deliberately trying to introduce chaos into the situation because they feel trapped. They are screaming to communicate, I am absolutely not okay with this, and you need to understand the severity of my panic before you proceed.
There's a line in the transcript that is both hilarious and just profoundly true. Fear is imagination moving faster than reality.
That is so profound.
Right. The dog's brain is preparing an entire physiological and emotional response to the mere idea of the clipper, completely disconnected from the physical reality of a tiny pinch.
Exactly.
The human thinks they're just clipping a nail. The dog thinks they are fighting a psychological war for their survival.
And that brings us to the aftermath and this crucial concept of emotional reassessment. Because eventually the stressful task does end.
It does. And how do we bridge this massive gap between a dog's active panic and long-term training success? According to the transcript, it all comes down to cheese.
Yeah, the great canine equalizer.
It really is. The dog notes that when the cheese appears after the clipping is done, they don't call it forgiveness. They call it emotional reassessment.
I love that.
They observe that optimism paired with dairy has ended many negotiations.
It's framed humorously, sure, but it's actually a perfect description of classical counterconditioning in action.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we aren't just rewarding a dog for surviving a task. We're trying to neurologically overwrite a panic response.
Oh.
By introducing high-value dairy at the exact moment of stress recovery, the dog's brain is forced to process pleasure and fear simultaneously.
Wow.
Over time, that optimism paired with the dairy begins to neutralize the fear response.
But the behavior after the cheese is what reveals the most about the dynamic.
The limp.
Yes. The dog admits to limping for a few steps afterward. Not because they are physically injured, and not even to garner sympathy.
Right.
They say they limp for accountability. They want the human to move carefully and deeply reflect on their choices. Justice is often quiet, the dog says.
That dog is begging for a predictable environment.
Totally.
When we extract the core lesson from this entire ordeal, the dog makes a direct plea to humans regarding canine emotional resilience. Move slowly, speak honestly, and don't pretend.
Speak honestly. That is the ultimate takeaway here.
It is.
In the transcript, the dog complains bitterly that the human keeps repeating the phrase, almost done, and the dog knows it's a complete lie.
Of course they do.
The dog observes that phrase isn't a timeline. It's self-soothing. The human is murmuring it to make themselves feel better about causing distress, not to actually give the dog any useful information.
Right. And if we tie this directly back to the professional behaviorists we discussed earlier, like Nikki Ivey, this is a foundational pillar of their methodology. Dogs are absolute masters at reading our patterns.
Right.
When you use baby talk or false reassurances right before doing something the dog hates, you aren't calming them down. You are actively poisoning that tone of voice.
Yeah.
You are teaching their nervous system that your soft, reassuring voice actually predicts an ambush.
It's exactly like when a dentist looks at you and says, you won't feel a thing, right before jabbing a massive needle into your gums.
That is a perfect analogy.
It destroys all trust. The next time that dentist says you won't feel a thing, your heart rate is going to absolutely spike because you know they are lying. The predictable pattern is pain.
Exactly.
So, how does acknowledging a dog's need for honest feedback fundamentally change the trajectory of long-term training?
It changes everything.
Okay.
Because consistent, honest feedback is the only way to build true emotional resilience.
Right.
Resilience isn't about a dog never experiencing stress. It's about their ability to recover from it quickly. When your cues actually predict what is going to happen, when you don't pretend a scary thing is harmless, the dog doesn't have to use their imagination to create fear.
I see.
They don't have to scream before the clippers touch them because they aren't waiting for a surprise attack. They know exactly what the parameters are.
That is so powerful.
You build trust not by avoiding stressful tasks, but by being a reliable, honest partner during those tasks.
So what does this all mean for you listening to this right now? Let's connect the dots on everything we've unpacked today.
Let's do it.
We started by identifying how to find the best research-based podcasts, emphasizing that you need guides with real credentials, people who understand empirical behavior science and can translate those complex concepts into actionable steps for managing your environment.
Right. And then we looked at the baseline biology of canine stress. We discovered that the steady, predictable rhythm of a calm human voice, even an audiobook,
Which is still wild to me.
can biologically regulate a dog's nervous system better than engineered music simply by providing that illusion of safety.
And finally, we decoded the intense emotional communication dogs use during stressful events like nail clipping. We saw how easily our good intentions, like offering soothing words or stabilizing a paw, can be interpreted as an unpredictable ambush if we aren't honest in our communication.
Exactly.
Whether you are trying to soothe your dog's separation anxiety or you just want to clip their nails without it turning into a full-contact wrestling match, remember this: behavior is always communication.
Always.
When you respect your dog enough to speak honestly with them, and when you provide a predictable environment without false reassurances, you aren't just training them, you're building a foundation of absolute trust.
And consistent trust is the ultimate antidote to canine fear.
Perfectly said.
Yeah.
So I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over today as you look at your own dog.
Right?
If an audiobook can physically soothe a dog's nervous system simply by mimicking the cadence of a calm human presence, and a dog can actively negotiate its physical boundaries and demand accountability during a nail trim, what other aspects of your daily routine is your dog deeply analyzing that you are completely taking for granted? If you're constantly fighting your dog's behavior, maybe it's time we stop looking for what's broken in them and start looking at what we are actually communicating to them.
Such a good point.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.